Hello! Welcome, nerdy knights of the well-rounded table aboard Bohemian Geek Studies Millennium Fandom. I'm Padawan learner Sara O'Connor, that queen of queries and defender of droids, and we are here to talk about Ezra frickin' Bridger. Before we dive in, though, let's meet the rest of the well-rounded table of nerdy knights that we have here today.
Hi all, I'm Jedi Master and Rebel Scum collaborator Colleen McMillan.
I'm Flo, your manager of mischief, and I've never seen Rebels, so I'm just here to take notes and listen eagerly.
And bum, bum, bum! The rebellion grows, much like how the Ghost welcomed the suave agent Kalis. We've got a newcomer to our ranks as well. Why don't you introduce yourself, sir?
Sure thing. So I am Jedi Knight Anders Drew. I grew up loving Star Wars, but never really engaged with it beyond it being this like really fun movie series with wizards and laser swords and spaceships. Until I got a little older, I started getting into Clone Wars, some of the expanded universe stuff, and then I found Rebels, and it really just started to show me everything of what this universe, the galaxy far, far away, can do in terms of storytelling. So I'm just really happy to be here.
Awesome. And you know what I really liked originally before Flo was going to be here, it was kind of like, oh, well, we're Jedi Padawan, we've got a Jedi Knight, and we've got a Jedi Master, but we've got like the full flipping gamut because we've also got a youngling here.
Yeah, I crashed the party.
Yeah, and we love that. So like no matter your rank, folks, remember here at the Nerdy Knight well-rounded table, like Dooku and Anakin, much to learn we still have. And so to set the stage, frankly, Colleen wrote a bloody brilliant essay on Ezra Bridger, the main protagonist from Star Wars Rebels. And that show ran from 2014 to 2018 on Disney XD, voiced by Taylor Gray. And I frankly thought that the essay could be a standalone episode, if not series, which I kept pushing for Colleen in and of itself. So in addition to her very eloquent words, we'll be exploring Ezra's character a bit and taking a few questions from you, our dear, dear listeners and fellow BGS nerdy knights. And so to state the obvious, this episode is obscenely spoiler-filled. So if you haven't, like Flo, gotten a chance to watch Rebels, watch it. And then come back later.
All right, let me go ahead and pause this then.
Yeah, yes.
That.
Like, go watch all 4 seasons.
Yeah,
yes.
take your time, worth it. And so if you haven't enjoyed Rebels, if you have enjoyed Rebels, then we want you to grab your absolute favorite drink from the cantina and prepare to relax and unwind as we engage your mind. And so obviously my role here today, like usual, is to ask questions and help us dive more deeply into Colleen's superb theory, which I endorse and adore, frankly. So are you 3 ready to go?
Jedi is always ready.
I have my notebook.
Well, without further ado, because we have a lot to cover today on one of the best Star Wars characters, it's my absurdly extreme pleasure to turn control over this Millennium Fandom over to you, Colleen, my Jedi Master.
Excellent. Oh my gosh. He's our little sweet space Aladdin. I love Ezra. I obviously have a lot to say about him because I wrote a freaking 11-page essay about him. My fascination with him began like on this journey to writing this essay. I just adore Ezra. So today we're going to spend our time getting to know this really unlikely Rebels hero. And my main purpose will probably be to defend him because there are a lot of Ezra haters out there. But before we get really deep, I know, so many people don't like Ezra. They've told me, and I just get like, what? But yeah, so we're here to defend our little guy, our little Ezra. Andrew, Sara, and Flo, if you want, what are your main impressions and thoughts on our plucky little Padawan?
Yeah, Flo, why don't you? Yeah, Flo, go first.
Okay, here's what I know of Ezra Bridger. I know that when you go to Disneyland and you go to Tomorrowland to go meet Kylo and Chewbacca and the whole gang, they've got a bunch of lightsabers up on the wall. So like obviously the ones that I know, like Luke and Maul and whatever. And then I've always been like, who the fuck is wielding the staple gun? that's the only
That
thing
is
I
a
know about
stun gun.
Yeah.
Ezra's design is unique.
Home Depot? Like, what is happening?
Basically.
He's scrappy. He's
scrappy.
so scrappy.
I get it. Hey, I respect the hustle, but I'm just saying, it looks like a staple gun. And the way they have it displayed is like not great. So that's what I know about Ezra.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love that. And Ezra, for me, like, he was something before I read your essay, Colleen. So like I'll kind of forget that Sara because I'm mature now through your holocron. I frankly think after rewatching the last 2 episodes of season 2 and the second to last and third to last episode of the 4th season, Ezra Bridger is literally the master of life and death. And it's just a matter of time for us to fully understand that that's who he is. I had thought, like, spoiler for if you haven't yet enjoyed our Clone Wars season 7 coverage, I had thought that he was maybe the son and Anakin was is the father. But like Anakin,
That's interesting.
You tried. Too bad, so sad. Like, you lost the privilege. I now think if we have to stick to those archetypes, and I think Filoni's better than that, Ezra would be the father now. So I'm going to go, like, hardcore on record, jump the gun. He might be the best damn defender of droids. We'll talk about that. And I love him. That's where I am now. I'm so freaking hard for this kid.
I think that's really interesting that you say that. You need to kind of give him time, because when I first watched Rebels, I think I was catching up and then I caught like the final season as it aired. I really always liked him a lot, but I can see in like the wider Star Wars fandom, Rebels itself, and then by extension, someone like Ezra tends to get kind of overlooked. I mean, Clone Wars was this big deal when it came out. It had its original run. Then it had a bonus season when it came onto Netflix. Then it had another bonus season when it came onto Disney Plus. So it was like eventized 3 times over. And Rebels just never really had that.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really easy to kind of overlook Ezra, because if you've watched all of Clone Wars, you're thinking, and then you're on Rebels, you're like, oh my God, Ahsoka's back, Maul is back, Rex is back, Honda's back, my boy. And then Thrawn comes in season 3 and season 4. So Ezra can just kind of.
It's crazy.
It's wild. I mean, honestly, I stopped listening after you said Anakin, and then I just got like hard eyes. So.
And so Ezra can just kind of get dismissed as this potential like Luke Skywalker ripoff. And there are a lot of parallels there, which I think we're going to get into a little bit later.
Yeah.
But there's just so much more and so much character work there that they do.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, Colleen, looking at this essay, and I echo Sarah's point, it's just so well done. Why? What inspired you to actually write this out?
Why? Always why?
You've got all these thoughts.
You've got all
these thoughts. What inspired you to actually organize them and put them out like this?
I love Ezra. I'm a sucker for a hero's journey. And I was inspired by how he changed throughout the series from like this upstart, whiny little kid into this leader who is actually someone capable of taking down Thrawn, which I had my doubts a lot on the first watch. I'm like, how the fuck is he going to do this?
I think if people didn't, they weren't.
Amazing.
Yeah, if you don't have doubts about what Ezra can do, you don't understand Ezra. Like, you don't understand what Filoni and the whole crew are trying to do with Ezra. Anyway.
Well, that's the point, is that Thrawn doesn't understand him. He thinks he does. He thinks he's made all the necessary links, but he ignores the natural side of the Force, which we'll get into a little bit later also. So like Ezra, he's not the smartest guy in the room. Like, he's smart. He's more savvy, street smart, but he's not like the towering intellect that Thrawn is. But he's got a lot of other talents, and he's freaking hilarious. It's so funny.
Jabba the Hutt.
And let's see, one of the things we're having Flo do is take notes on like things that as we're talking about this, because this outline is so massive, it's not even funny. And I realized, like, especially the four of us, even with Flo being a total youngling in this arena, like, the four of us combined could probably talk about this for a Netflix series. So what Manager of Mischief, aka Mom, is going to do is take some notes for us. And I think the first topic that has been flagged here is, like, in what ways has Thrawn underestimated Ezra, and how does that just, like, massively contribute to the true rise of the rebellion? I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And so we're going to have at least a Thrawn episode, if not a Thrawn mini part series as well. And so I expect some Thrawn questions to be raised, because it's all interconnected. But if we don't move forward, we're just never going to stop. And either way is fine with me, frankly. But
can I ask a maybe question?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, this is like just going back. Okay, so I know that Clone Wars takes place between Clones, which is my fave, and Revenge of the Sith, right?
Yes.
Okay, where does Rebels take place? Between
Before
their
A New Hope.
Okay, so it's after. Okay, got it. I just wanted to make sure I knew where I was in time.
Yeah.
Rebels officially ends, like, right before you get into, like, Rogue One.
Okay, got it. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks. I'll put that as a note for myself.
And let's see.
There will be a test.
Perfect.
Yeah, there will be a test later. The prize is a holocron. And so to dive a little bit more deeply into Colleen's holocron, what was the theory behind your piece, my love?
Well, I hadn't written a nonfiction piece, like, in years, probably 15 years. So it was a bit like working out a muscle group that you didn't know you had and that needed to be worked out. Like, this was me trying to flex, and hopefully comes across okay. One of my main passions is, like, dissecting literature and, like, film, TV episodes and looking at themes and stuff. I always look for character analysis stuff, themes, symbolism, the usual staples of, like, a creative writing major person. Like, I'm always picking stuff apart, which can be tough because I like to also lose myself in it, which Rebels I did. So that's probably why I enjoyed it so much.
And this essay you
my
did
nitpicky
too.
part came out. Oh.
Yeah. I feel like you're never going to be, I feel like you're done with this finally, but it was always like, let's keep massaging it and making it better, which is why I love you.
I took a obscene amount of notes on the entire series. Like, I think I got through 2 legal pads just taking notes on the series. Oh man, I started this essay wanting it to be about Ezra's connection just to the natural force and his ability with animals.
Yeah.
But then that led me down another pathway, and I started focusing more on his particular force skill, which is basically super Jedi empathy. Like, he is the most empathetic of all of the Jedi that we've seen. So then after, I think it was like my 3rd or 4th rewatch of the series, I started to pick up on this little poem that Ezra uses a couple times in the show.
Yes.
And then that led me to my kind of overarching theme for the essay, was this poem that he uses.
Yeah, and hit us with it.
The poem is, Lothrat, Lothcat, Lothwolf, run, pick a path, and all is done. It's kind of like an eeny, miny, mo kind of situation for kids to use. Or if you're confused, you're like,
turn this stupid fat rat yellow.
A little bit. It's got that same rhyme scheme kind of thing going on, that same little melody, which, yes, I love all of our HP connections too.
Yes.
So basically, so you don't have to listen to me do the entire essay, like reading it aloud, and my vocal cords would probably be destroyed. We're going to take turns reading from it. And then we're all going to kind of interject here and there, throw our thoughts in there. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Woo woo!
Woo!
Detail dorky dive time. Let go.
We're ready. We're ready. Ezra is ready. I've got him.
Oh, wait, hold on. There you go. Now we can start it.
All right, here we go, everybody. This is the essay. This is the essay titled Ezra Bridger and Awakening Empathy. It's difficult to choose the right path. It doesn't matter what decision you're trying to make. There are always at least 2 choices. But how are you supposed to know which is right? Should you pick one that seems easiest? Another Harry Potter choice there.
Girl,
or the one that
I
will make
know.
you look best to other people?
And I
Slytherin thing.
always wonder about that one because it's kind of like, who are you trying to prove something to, and why does that matter? That's part of the question as well, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, especially for Ezra, who is worried about people's opinions of him.
I'm
Mhm.
sorry, is he Ron? Like everything you're saying, I'm just like, is Ezra Ron Weasley?
He's a little Ron and a little Harry.
Yeah,
He's a-
Flo, I'm
he's-
not even
he's got a
kidding. You're
lot
gonna
of
love
Harry.
this.
You just
got a lot of
I
Harry
have
in
to
him.
write this down.
He's in a good age range for that too, because he ages from 15 to 19 in the series. So he's
And he's
big-
very
angsty.
legal.
He's so
He does.
angsty.
He's got the angst.
Yeah,
He's got a lot of angst.
he throws attractive temper tantrums. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
That's all I've ever wanted. Okay.
That's what I'm
Go
saying.
on.
You're gonna love Rebels, Flo.
I'll be turning it on as soon as this is done.
And he's adorable. I just love Ezra. Back to our choices. What
Sorry.
if the choice in no, this is what we're here for. We need the
Yeah.
interjections. Otherwise we're just talking forever. What if the choice in front of you could lead you somewhere dark? For the Jedi.
See, this is what I'm
The-
talking about, people.
We got the
This-
we got the dark path and the light path, but then you think about like it's the Robert Frost, the two ones.
Mhm.
They diverge in the one, and I took the one less traveled. Well, I would think that would be the dark one, and that's why people avoid it.
Mhm.
And here, I'll say
Depends
one
on your
thing.
reading of that poem.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of hidden symbolism here. Lightsaber, decision tree, result. So Flo will figure out what that means later, but colors mean things. And I think we talk about lightsaber colors later, right, Colleen?
Yes.
I think
Yep.
So there's some
And we'll all
symbolism
have to
here.
share our own lightsaber colors later too, I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
Shows who people really are when you know what their lightsaber color is. So for the Jedi, this decision is making is supposed to be easy. Like, well, you're supposed to just do what serves the greater good, whichever helps the most people.
All right, Dumbledore.
Mhm. What if you weren't raised, though, to reflect this kind of innate selflessness? What if survival was your only goal for most of your life? Would it be easy to embrace connection or empathy? Probably not. For someone like Ezra Bridger from our Star Wars Rebels, watch Rebels, it doesn't come easily.
I say testify, but I see Anders shaking his head no. So this is what we're talking about. It depends. It depends.
It doesn't come easily for him at first, we should say.
No, not at first.
Not at first.
He gets there
I
though.
mean, he was basically orphaned at age 7. His parents were arrested by Imperials for anti-Imperial sentiments. He's left to fend for himself in Lothal's capital city. He's probably unconsciously using his Force abilities to find food and evade capture. Kind of very Aladdin-y, also jumping around from rooftop to rooftop in
Yeah,
the
I
capital city.
Yeah, Dave Filoni has denied that was an influence, but I refuse to believe it.
Like, no,
Yeah,
it's there,
there's-
my guy. It's there.
There's no way. It
Face
even
Aladdin.
looks like Agrabah. Like it
It
looks
does.
like that scene. I
Mhm.
mean, it's perfect, Filoni. Lean into
Yes.
it. You're so good at everything. Like your reputation will not take a ding. Just like give the people what they want, and what we want is the truth.
Exactly.
Fine. It's all the Disney family, so
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
You're safe now, Filoni. You're safe. Your legacy is fine.
So true. Oh man. Yeah, just like Aladdin too, Ezra lives a very solitary life, and this takes a toll on his emotional development. He doesn't have the best EQ to start out with either.
Flo, note taken.
Just like, well,
I'm like, oh, neither does Ron. Okay, interesting.
yes, very, very Ron.
He's better at sass than Ron, though.
Yes, he's really
better
good at sass.
sex. What did you say?
Sass.
Sass.
I was like,
Well,
you're throwing shots. At
I'm
my
sure
man.
Ezra's interested in that,
Yeah.
but he's got no game. Ezra has
Yeah.
no game.
Mm-mm.
That is Ron, so that's fine.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't take a lot, though, to awaken Ezra's inner good nature. You can look through his journey through the lens of that poem that he uses in the season 1 episode, Path of the Jedi. You can trace his empathetic development through that. So we're going to go through the 3 stages of the empathetic development while we're talking here today. There is the first one, Lothrat. Second, Lothcat. And third, Lothwolf. Our
Love
little
it.
Wolfies, Dave Filoni's
Mhm.
favorite. Each of these animals, and they're all native to Lothal, where Ezra's from. And there's a couple other Loth animals, but they don't fit into the poem, so I kind of just was like, go over there. We're not looking at you today. They
Flo.
symbolize like a step in his journey.
Wait. Flo, take a note. We will have to cover other Loth animals later. People will probably want to know. And if you do want to know about animals, what about them and why?
Well, here's my Loth cat right now, Duncan. I'm very sorry, Dunk, but you can't stay here for right now.
I think he makes a guest cameo every episode. I love that guy.
He definitely will. He likes the spotlight. He's the diva. So then, we're going to look at Ezra's empathetic development because this is really important to his journey because this is his superpower, basically. Empathy is his secret weapon, which he will use against pretty much every foe throughout the series. So we're going to get into our first section.
Woo! All right, so Ezra starts off as the Lothrat. And just a little bit of background information. Lothrat is a rodent pest, and its name is a lot of the times used as an insult on Lothal. So Ezra, in the very first episode, is called Lothrat by the only word for it is oafish Imperial Officer Grint in pretty much the opening minutes of Rebels. And later on in that episode, his soon-to-be Jedi Master, Kanan Jarrus, calls him a street rat. So, considering Lothal's animals are pretty much like Earth ones, just with Loth in front of them, they probably share a lot of the same symbolic meaning too. Mm-hmm. So rats are perceived as dirty, diseased, and tricky. They're not very welcome as house guests, but in reality, they're actually really clever survivalists.
Yeah, and shouts to our coverage of Matilda on the podcast in episode 2. We totally talk about this because, I totally care about it. So check it out if you haven't already, because domestic rats in particular are definitely not dirty or gross. And wild rats themselves get a bad rap, though we still say, don't try and pet one. You're not Ezra Bridger.
The rats are just out there. They're trying to get some stuff done. They're trying to survive, maybe get some pizza, find their way into a happy hour. Who knows? Maybe they want to just open a gourmet French restaurant.
Just like us.
Just like everybody else. They just want to live.
Exactly.
And so while Ezra might not have the best hygiene right now, I mean, what's a poor orphan lad to do? The second description fits him so much better than the negative attributes. Ezra survived on his own for 8 years, proving that he is very rat-like in tenacity and intelligence. And although he diverts Imperial soldier attention away from frightened Gatal Fruit, the merchant in the first episode, Ezra still takes a knapsack full of the food after, and we can quibble about this, rescuing the poor guy. I mean, because Ezra, I both fault and don't fault him. We're in different life circumstances, right? He's opportunistic when grabbing a speeder, and that's towing some supplies. And Ezra relishes in his ingenuity and daring. And frankly, as a watcher, I do too. And so it's doubtful, though, that he was going to share the supplies at that stage in his life. That's just not his current mindset. His current mindset right now is survival. He needs to fortify his little own nest at home and fill it like a little magpie with all his little artwork. He doesn't even know Sabine yet, He is alone. He's confused.
He's already a collector.
Yeah, he's already a collector. He just needs the ghost crew to arrive. And we also refer to them as specters, just as an FYI. And that's when they take some stolen supplies to the Tarkin town, which is a refugee camp on Lothal. And Ezra, frankly, it's so sad but true. Since his parents, disappeared, died, at this point, we're just not sure. He hasn't, to our knowledge, experienced altruistic behavior in years. And so he's feeling awkward when someone thanks him because he's used to having to only take care of himself and not rely on others, let alone the goodness of others.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true. Another aspect of rats is that they are, despite what a lot of us think, they are actually just very social creatures. So Ezra being alone and surviving doesn't really mean much when he doesn't have a community. And Colleen, when I first read this, I had this kind of thought, because as I went back, and especially on like my last rewatch of Rebels, I noticed that Ezra did have like a little bit of community kind of sprinkled throughout his time in this stage. Like
People
he'd
know
pass
him.
people on the street. Yeah, people know who he is. He's like the friendly little neighborhood scamp. You know, people are laughing as if he steals something and is running away, people are kind of like giggling and watching to see how it all turns out.
Yeah.
He knows the farmers. He knows people who were friends of his parents.
Mhm.
And so I really kind of like how you brought that up in here. In addition there, so Herathim in the first episode, if all you do is fight for your own life, your life is worth nothing. And Ezra, having been through kind of what he does in the pilot, begrudgingly agrees, and he then does indeed rush to help the Spectres after just a little bit of hesitation. There's a slight blip in that relationship, though, this new relationship with the Spectres, when he's captured by Agent Callus, who suspects that the Ghost Crew will in fact return to try and rescue him. Ezra's initial reaction is to kind of scoff at the idea and says, people don't do that.
So sad.
So
I
sad.
know.
So
I know.
sad.
His little wise-ass, street-smart self just kind of reasserts itself as the dominant personality, and he thinks that he's been left behind and is going to have to get out of this on his own. And then he is completely blown away when, in fact, the Ghost Crew does come back for him, and it gives him his first reason he's had in a long time to trust somebody.
Mm-hmm. Which is also super sad. Like, he's just like, people don't do that. Like, you're an idiot, Callus. People don't put their necks out for other people. When in fact he had just done that, so it's kind of like, you just did that, Ezra, whatever. Like, you were already getting that little cute heart out there.
It's the angst. It's the angst.
So much angst. All the angst is coming out. I thought this point was really cool too in those first episodes. He shows a really easy affinity with the Wookiees that the Ghost Crew is trying to rescue. And this kind of foreshadows his innate empathic understanding of everyone. Like, he can't even speak their language. Like, he doesn't speak the Wookiee language, but he has no trouble communicating with them, and they're really like interacting with him too. They think that he can understand them. So we see this more often as Ezra matures and grows into this ability. It's going to come out in even more crazy fashions as we go along.
Yeah.
Like we said before, Ezra yearns for this kind of connection, whether it's with humans or with animals coming up. And that's pretty much what season 1 is focused on, is Ezra trying to connect to the Spectres and to other people. He's eager to train with Kanan. He learns wisdom and teamwork with Hera, which is some of my favorite parts. Also hysterical. He gains a really irritable roommate and this kind of older brother figure in Zeb, the Lasat, who's on their team.
Sure.
He has this huge crush on Sabine that eventually turns into like this super, super close bond. And then he also earns loyalty from the really cranky droid Chopper.
Which, again, like, I can't wait to get into this. He is such a defender of droids. I love it.
They fight. I mean, everybody
That's
fights.
because Chopper doesn't take no crap from no one.
No, he does not.
It's very true. So if Chopper likes you kind of have to be like, this person's all right. Like, it's really cute throughout the first season too, because you see Ezra thinking of Kanan and Hera as his parents. Like, they're kind of his surrogate parental figures.
Yeah.
And he takes that dynamic really quickly. He behaves like the typical surly teenager whenever he's chastised for mistakes and like made to go do chores and stuff. It's just like, whatever, mom, whatever, dad. I don't want to do that. But he does, because he's actually fairly good at listening. He just takes a little while to get there.
Yeah. He has to hiss. He has to hiss out first.
He does. He does have to hiss a little bit. That's our next animal. I love too, like, those clumsy early flirtations with Sabine show that he's aware of other people around him, and he's ready to give them attention even if they don't want it. And like, his sibling rivalry kind of relationship with Zeb is also really sweet. It showcases his need for this camaraderie. Like, as someone who's like an only child, probably craved this relationship with like a sibling, and he gets that in Zeb, even though Zeb really doesn't want him around at all at first. And then some of the best moments are with Chopper. We'll talk more about this later with defending the droids, but you don't see this very often, people actually taking in the droids' feelings into account and believing that they're sentient beings. Ezra even at one point like throws his body on top of Chopper to like protect him from an explosion.
Yeah.
That's freaking huge. I don't know anybody else.
Even
ooh,
Poe Dameron, who I think very much loves a
BB.
specific droid, BB-8.
Yeah.
I think
I think
sounds like Poe.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I will say though with Poe, so that I don't offend anyone. I think though Poe trusts BB-8 to know, not that Ezra doesn't, but I think that it's not that Poe wouldn't do it. I think it's that he's just like, go get it, my guy. You can handle this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It just speaks volumes of the characters who defend the droids in the series, and I just love that.
Yeah.
Like this ability of Ezra's to make and keep, really important, keep friends is a recurring theme for the entire series. And the first season sets up that he has this innate talent to draw people to him and to keep their loyalty. Like it's one thing to be charismatic and to have people follow you, but it's another for them to keep coming back and stick with you through like your entire life.
Yeah.
Even after you make a lot of mistakes as they're staring you in the face saying, this is a mistake.
Yes. Oh, poor Ezra. He's such a little teenage pain in the ass. So moody. We'll get to that though too.
Yes.
And I would say another one of Ezra's unique gifts is almost this, and I love it, universal understanding and connection with animals, though this doesn't come easy to him at first. Kanan tries to get Ezra to connect with a feisty little loft kitty boy through the Force, but Ezra fails miserably. Kanan says, quote, "Step outside yourself. Make a connection with another being." And Ezra, frankly, doesn't see the point. He wants to learn how to fight and control with his new power. Hi, Anakin. But this is the Force's most important lesson, that he's not alone in the universe. He never was, he never will be. The Force binds him to the Lothcat as well as other beings, but he can't yet drop his inner guards, the walls that he felt he had to put up, or in fact had to put up. We learn why Ezra was so solitary. His parents were arrested by the Empire for broadcasting anti-government statements, showing Ezra that, at least to him, trying to do good and make connections with others only gets you into trouble. Serious trouble. And he can't let his guard down, or he might share their same fate, a fate he doesn't know truly what truly has happened, which also really kind of increases the fear in my mind. And he can't forgive the family friend who re-enters his life, Rodan Cebu, who I loved Cebu.
Cebu is so cute.
I love Cebu so much for abandoning him after his parents' arrest. By closing him off from this absolution for Cebu, Ezra closes him off from the Force, which is so sad. Bless you.
Thank you.
May the Force be with you.
Always. All right, and that kind of gets us into episode 9 of season 1, which is called Gathering Forces, and that gives us our first real look at how powerful Ezra could become. So they've been tracked, the rebels have been tracked to a Clone Wars military fort by a dark side villain called the Grand Inquisitor. Kanan plans on Ezra making a connection with the deadly Vernok creatures who live in the base. Kanan knows Ezra won't actually be able to gain control and make the connections all on his own. He's probably going to need help. But he also needs to let go of that anger and forgive Cebu. So he puts Ezra in the position to confront that pain. Finally admitting he's not afraid of the creatures themselves as they slink closer and closer to him and Kanan, Ezra finally says out loud, quote, "I am not afraid of them. I'm afraid of knowing. I'm afraid of the truth. I'm sorry. I forgive you, Cebu." And then by releasing that fear and resentment, Ezra's internal walls just come crashing down and his power starts to really flourish.
And I'm like trying not to kind of well up right now I
love this part.
Yeah.
It's a really good scene.
Mm-hmm.
We're clued into how special Ezra is in this moment also by after Ezra has made that connection with the Phrynox. Kanan's kind of astounded. He's like, this is not normal. This is not how this, you shouldn't be able to do this quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he thought he was going to have to kind of lend a helping hand, but Ezra's got it. It's fine. And we see some of the first real pride that Kanan starts to show toward his young Padawan.
Can I just be really weird for a second?
So cute.
Like
1 second, really?
Yeah, just one little one. So especially since we have Flo here with like the Harry Potter stuff, when I read Phrynox, since it's spelled F-Y-R.
The Fearnox.
Yeah,
Fearnox,
I was going to
yeah.
say, thank you. Because I was like, wait, I feel like it's fear, like knocking on Ezra, right? There's a lot of those like tiny little word gems that I'll call it. But it's also like in Harry Potter, Nox means like the lights go out,
Right.
but it's spelled differently. So it's almost like the fear either goes dark or darkness, which is an unfortunate word to use for it, is like fear intensifying. So I just, that's just a little vocab, little query theory. Bring.
Wait, so I've got a question.
like it.
Like, this
Yes.
is post Order 66, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how is this kid not being hunted down for being Force sensitive?
They don't know about
So
him.
actually, we mentioned the Grand Inquisitor. Probably something to note to make a full topic on it later. But to sum it up, the Inquisitors are dark side Force users who the Emperor and Darth Vader have sent out to hunt Force sensitive people.
Got it. So are
To
they
try and find them.
Are they like on the run?
Pretty much.
Kind of, just because Kanan's part of a rebel unit also. And he's basically closed himself off from the Force for like 15 years, pretty much.
Like as soon as Ezra joins the Ghost, he's now
They
on the
become
run.
a target.
Yeah, and then further, it is discovered that Ezra is a Force wielder, and there's just like people are thirsty for him.
Okay.
Yes. Once the Inquisitors know, in the very first episode, or second part of the first episode, Kanan brings out his lightsaber and says everyone's going to be in on the secret now. So he hasn't used his lightsaber in years, and they thought that all the Jedi were gone.
Right. Okay.
So then they see him wielding the lightsaber, and they're like, "Oh shit, Jedi!" Like, and that kind of alerts the Inquisitor that he needs to go to Lothal and find him.
Right.
And here's a good question: and this might heat some people up, but it's a topic worth posing. Are Kanan and Ezra true quote unquote Jedi because Kanan was quote unquote only a Padawan when he lost his master?
Until a specific point, yes.
And so sometimes, especially with this newer canonical stuff, sometimes older veteran Star Wars fans, I'm positing, get a little bit feisty because some of these rules are getting touched on and or developed and or pushed in new ways that one could argue were always there if you were looking for it, but it really depends on how you interpret things. So I think
Yoda said Luke was the last one.
Yeah, so I think it's a fair question.
Why are we trusting Yoda?
Like, are you a Jedi if you weren't trained, or are you just Force sensitive?
It depends.
Yeah.
Like, I would say you would need a trainer in order to be called a Jedi.
That's what I'm talking about. So the fact that the formal steps didn't happen, it's kind of like knighthood, right? Like you can be a hedge knight, but not a knight. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it on another day
There'll
when we can get feisty about it.
We can definitely dive into
that. Yeah. Okay, so Colleen, without further ado, let's dive back into it. Yeah.
So we're still with the Fearnox right now. We get a glimpse of what Ezra's power could become if he gets corrupted by the dark side. The Grand Inquisitor, he's a dark side Force user, and he's very powerful. He eludes the Fearnox, who are kind of running after all the Imperial soldiers that are also there. He tries to kill Kanan, and he mocks Ezra to a point where he unknowingly pushes Ezra to access the dark side. So Ezra's like, this is one of the scarier parts in Rebels when you realize what Ezra's doing. He puts out this like huge amount of manipulative force power. He's able to raise this giant Fear-Knock queen. It's like the mom, basically, of all the other little Fear-Knocks that are running around.
Yeah, the
And
Molly
she's just,
Weasley
like,
of them.
Yes, she is like the Molly Weasley of all these little guys running around. And she is massive and terrifying, and even the Grand Inquisitor is like, oh, fuck. Like, what did I do? And the Queen Fear-Knock attacks him on Ezra's orders. Like, Ezra points at him and basically is like, go fucking kill this guy. It's like, what kind of connection occurs here? Like, when you're using the dark side for this reason instead of the light side? Like, the smaller Fear-Knocks were super mesmerized by Ezra, but they were calm and kind of curious. They're just kind of like sitting there waiting for him to say stuff like, what's up, dude? You're my friend.
Yeah.
But the queen, you can tell she is just like filled with rage. She's feeding off of Ezra's particular energy.
He turned her babies into child soldiers.
Yeah.
But she's still listening to him. I mean, she's listening to him. So it's like he's just putting out this massive amount of empathetic, dark side force to try and get her to act. And in the end, this connection is really unstable. Like, the effort to do it makes Ezra faint. Once the connection is broken, the queen like disengages and runs. He didn't have this problem with the other Fear-Knocks. They're still like running around chasing the Imperials after his connection with them is broken. So it's like, what's going on here? Like, he inspired their loyalty, I think, instead of forcing them to help him, like he did with the queen, which is why he doesn't continue to attack the Grand Inquisitor when their connection's broken.
And I loved watching this this part in this episode, because it starts to push things in a slightly new direction. Like, up until this point, Ezra really is just kind of a Luke Skywalker stand-in. You know, he's an orphan, natural force user, surrogate father figure, and this master. Everything's kind of coming up like straight parallel. But then this, like, not necessarily new, but a very, very different take on the ability to use the force and how it connects with people starts to set him apart and really come into his own as a new, fully formed character.
Right. He's not just a substitute Luke.
So are you
at
like
this point anymore?
So Flo, are you like turned on yet? Is this like working for you?
Yes, but it's funny that you're comparing. Like, obviously, I have no background knowledge of anything.
Yeah.
But like, as I'm listening to you guys, I did not hear Luke. Like, I definitely heard Anakin as a parallel. Like,
There's a couple.
Me too.
Couple there too.
Anakin works too.
Super, super sad childhood. Like, obviously, Anakin in slavery with just his mother, no father around. Built a droid. Didn't really care about his droid at all, but that's a side
Tough look.
to have.
Tough look.
And then like was good for a long time. I mean, we assume like used the force to win that pod race
For half of his life, basically, he was good.
yeah, and then like had a really dark moment, accessed what we assume is the dark side when he killed all those Tusken Raiders, the men, women, and the children too.
Just a little light genocide, no big deal.
Yeah.
So I mean,
They
that's
still
what I
tell
was,
stories about that years later. The Tuskens avoid that place.
yeah, isn't it called like the Valley of Death or something?
And something like that, yeah.
Something very subtle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So anyways, that's
I mean,
what I was,
subtlety is key in Star Wars.
and we know
Yeah.
how
Absolutely.
Anakin, so
Yeah, Flo, I agree with you. Like, I'm excited to hear Colleen's and Anders' take on this. And maybe, frankly, this is like an SD, like a pod episode. Like, is Ezra more like Anakin, more like Luke, or frankly, the Bendu of the two?
Could be.
What's
Could
the
be.
Yes. So I think that's
Anakin and Luke are very similar too. Like they're just like
Yes.
the same path that just kind of diverged.
Mhm.
Yes, very
one-
true.
Mhm.
yeah.
Exactly.
But he's not a
See?
substitute Luke
No,
or
he's not a
Anakin,
substitute.
right, Colleen?
He's his own character. He has his own stuff that he has to do, which comes up in the next episode, Path of the Jedi. So Kanan
Mhm.
has seen Ezra access the dark side, and he's like, shit. Didn't think we'd get there that fast, but all right, we're gonna have to take care of that. So the next episode, Path of the Jedi, it's kind of like about emphasizing the series' themes of teamwork and protecting your family. But Ezra has to go and work with Kanan because he's a student. He knows he has to work with his teacher, but this is like actual teamwork kind of situation to open the temple.
Right.
And he's able to do it, which Kanan is like, oof, all right, so at least we got past that speed bump. They're there to further Ezra's teaching because Kanan can't teach him everything about the dark side because he was just a Padawan when Order 66 hit. So he hasn't had as much teaching also. But he knows that Ezra needs to face this trial and kind of face the darkness. It's a little bit like Luke going into the tree on Dagobah in Empire. This is basically what Kanan's trying to do for Ezra, kind of set him this task of you need to face the dark side and see if you can overcome it. And if you can't, we're both going to die in the temple, so that's fine. Everything's fine.
Sorry,
Right?
it's just like thinking of things as we go.
No, I love this.
Did Kanan know Anakin? Because Anakin
He knew
was
of him. He would know who he was.
Okay.
Kanan was...
Also
He was like,
ish.
Yeah, Kanan was like
13, 14
13,
when Order
14,
66 hit.
How old was Anakin during Order 66?
22, 23, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean they're not that far apart.
19, yeah, like 22.
No.
Both very attractive.
But he would have been older
look all right.
when Anakin killed all the younglings.
He was stationed with his own Jedi Master on a different planet.
Yeah.
Good
Deepa
for him.
Balaba.
That was a good call.
Yes. Deepa actually picked him when he was pretty young. Picked Kanan when he was young. So it was kind of lucky that he wasn't in the temple.
Yeah, because I feel like Anakin would have annihilated him.
Yes.
Yes.
As you will see in one of the episodes of Rebels.
Yes.
You get to
It's-
see Anakin, I'm in.
Yeah.
Oh, you might not be.
Yeah, no.
That's fine. But it is excellent. That is one of the best parts of the series is when certain people make little cameos. You're like, oh.
Oh.
I just
Speaking of
watched it today and
cameos,
sobbed. I literally
Yes,
sobbed.
those two episodes are just like a
I just
friggin'
watched it right before
gut
we
punch.
started recording.
I literally sobbed.
I did too. It's got like all my favorite characters just right there in two episodes.
And
Like,
that is episode what?
season 2, the finale. Twilight
but
of the
you
Apprentice,
also-
parts 1 and 2.
Yeah, you have to watch 1 and 2, not just the
Mhm.
last one.
Mhm.
Right.
Like
Well-
it's like 40 minutes of pure like amazingness. You're gonna be
Yes.
fine. You're gonna be
It's
so
so
grateful.
good. It's pretty much the best Star Wars
Perfect.
content out there.
Yes.
Like speaking of cameos too, we get Yoda.
Yeah.
get
How
Yoda's
freaking
little disembodied
how trippy
voice.
was that when he shows up,
It's like, holy
voice
crap.
only in the temple, and you're just like, whoa, hold up.
And Ray. Like, oh no, that was later. That was later. I'm thinking about season 4. I apologize. Mea culpa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just Yoda for now, who is
Yeah,
alive.
sorry. Whew.
He's alive right now. He's on Dagobah, so he's probably like getting these little flickers in the Force, and he's like, "Gosh, ooh, somebody's in a temple somewhere. Better go
Yeah.
test them."
It's like what's that freaking like security system where you can like my friends do this where they like have a camera for their dog in the house and they're like, oh,
Furbo.
activity. Yes. Yoda has like one of those for the Force, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like just
Yes.
across the galaxy.
Yeah, if you're good, it spits a kyber crystal at you.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh,
Maybe it was just like a Facebook check-in. Like maybe he's got like a notification when people check in at a temple.
Safe from Anakin babysitting.
Right.
Right.
Ezra checked in. Everything's fine. So Yoda's kind of here in the temple to make sure Ezra's worthy of being trained as a Jedi. It's the temple's job to kind of like dig really deeply into Ezra's mind, search his fears, and we find out what Ezra's afraid of, and it is fucking heartbreaking. He is afraid of failure. He's afraid of letting Kanan down. This one really got to me. He's afraid that the crew only keep him around because they pity him and to use him. Like he sees this vision of the
Such a
ghost
sad
crew.
sequence.
It's
Does
so,
that-
so sad.
And Flo,
It's like,
how
oof.
hard does that sound like Ron in the tent?
Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
It-
fun.
It's
That's
so
Ron
much
in the
fun.
tent.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's basically afraid ultimately of being abandoned and of being alone, especially after he's found this new family. He's like, he knows that it could be tenuous and that he could be left alone. But he eventually gets past this task. He figures out that the temple is testing him. He's like, okay, I got this now. I got this. But here comes Yoda again. Hard-hitting questions with Yoda, just all the freaking questions. He asks Ezra why he wants to be a Jedi. This is a fucking trick question, you
I
guys,
mean,
because
he should have prepped for his interview, I'm just saying.
you really should have. I mean, you're not supposed to, though. That's the point, is that you're supposed to go in kind of cold and not know what's going on. Ezra,
I mean, maybe if Yoda
like,
had questioned Palpatine this much when he was trying to get elected to be Chancellor, we wouldn't be in this mess.
I mean,
These are
or
facts.
that
Throwing it out
entrance
there.
interview,
like
man.
Rorschach tests.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you see death in everything. I think we should stop.
Yeah, we should probably
need to stop this.
put the brakes on this.
Ezra kind of gives that dark side leaning answer to this question. He says he wants to gain power and to make the Empire pay for what they've done, and so that he won't be helpless anymore, which is also very Anakin-y coming on there. But Yoda's kind of like, wait a minute, I don't think that's what you really mean. He says, like, really though, what do you really want? And Ezra's like, fine, all right, I'm just gonna lay it all out here. He sheds all of that darker kind of pretense that he came up with, and he said, quote, I'll protect everyone, not just me. They, the Spectres, give everything away, and I see how it makes people feel. They feel alive, like I do now. Also heartbreaking, so he's felt like he hasn't been alive probably for like the last 8 years, which is so sad. This poor kid, he's like 15 years old, and he's trying his best. But it's really cool because the Temple believes him. Yoda believes him. Duncan believes him. The Temple believes him. He gets his first Kyber crystal. It kind of floats down in the Temple. It kind of looks a little world between worlds here. Could be Ezra's first time accessing it. Not gaining complete control or complete entrance yet, but he's in that kind of waiting room. He's in the lobby of the world between worlds. So he gets his Kyber crystal, and he gets to build his first Home Depot lightsaber that Flo loves so much.
So I think it looks cool. I
think it's really cool. The design is really cool when you see what it can do.
I mean, okay,
that part is really cool.
Kanan's like, mine doesn't do that.
Yeah, I love when Kanan says that.
It feels like a Wiimote, which like I can appreciate, but like it's a little bit sturdier, can't be flicked out, but
exactly.
Yeah.
So after this, we're kind of prepped now to watch Ezra's rise. Like we can feel it here. We're like, oh shit, he's got the lightsaber. Like shit just got real.
Yeah. And so, Colleen, I wanted to ask you just a little bit more about this whole sequence in the temple, because as you kind of said earlier, this is the first point Ezra uses that poem as like an eeny, meeny, miny, moe. Kanan's back out in the entryway, the doors are shut, and he basically tells Ezra, you go figure out what you got to do. I'm going to wait for you here. And if you can't do it, I guess we'll both starve to death. And so Ezra has to pick a door. He's like, Loth rat, Loth cat, Loth wolf, run, pick a path, all is done. And considering how the final part of that is to actually choose a path, I just think it's really interesting that it's used as that kind of eeny, meeny, miny, moe. He's basically absolving himself of having to actually think about it and make the choice.
Here's a hot little whatever. That's kind of Rick and Morty of him. Like if you've seen the most recent episode stuff. Like
yes.
I really like this point, Anders. Go ahead, Colleen, because I want to hear what you have to say.
That's an excellent question. I think this sequence shows that Ezra, he's not quite taking this seriously yet. Like he's not taking the test seriously. I don't think he's ready. He's not ready to actually choose. He can't, at this point, choose. So he instead chooses to follow one of the temple's illusions of Kanan running through a door. So he doesn't choose the path. He lets the temple choose it for him. And I thought it was kind of cute that he fell back on this childhood poem instead of frickin' searching the Force for the correct path. After Kanan told him he should be like looking in the Force and searching your feelings, like he's not ready. Not ready for that quite yet.
And I think Ezra's response was just like, yo, trust me.
And Kanan's like, sure.
And I think that's a really good kind of transition to get to your next point, Colleen, that like we also get to see how Ezra's deepening empathic power could end up causing some harm, right? So by opening himself up to others, Ezra starts to develop, or I guess further enhance, some of his trust issues, but by the exact opposite of how he lived alone when on Lothal. He frankly starts trusting too freely now that he's found some like his people, right? Once you find
Mhm.
your people, it allows you to drop down your guards. And so when searching for information on a captured Kanan, Ezra tells Vizago, a dubious smuggler, that both he and Kanan are Jedi to gain his master's location. Like,
Look, guys got to do what a guy's got to do. Kanan already let the cat out of the bag.
It's true.
It's not
It's
going to
true.
be too long before the Imperials are like, "Hey, we captured a Jedi." Like, really?
Yep. Yep. I think the information was really supposed to take viewers aback. You were supposed to think like, what is this kid doing giving away the creme de la creme of secrets? And at least how the show is structured from a plot device standpoint, we see Sabine, Zeb, and Hera, all three of them who were supposed to trust as viewers. They're not happy that Ezra divulged the secret, though. I love your point, Anders, because we're still in the Lothrat section. You have to do what you have to do. So he divulges it, and Ezra has faith that Vizago's information will come through because he's a trusting, smart, scrappy rat. And so, unfortunately, this time, while Vizago's intel is accurate, we'll see later in season 2 that Ezra shouldn't be putting his trust in people so quickly. So before we get to Ezra's next stage, though, we should observe that early in season 2, now that we're making that transition, Ezra starts to feel Darth Vader's presence before either Kanan or Ahsoka Tano even, which is like, although, and we won't get into it, once Anakin is gone, it makes sense that Ahsoka wouldn't be as in tune with Vader. So, like, it both does and does not surprise, right? And so, noting the oppressive cold when the Sith Lord is nearby, Ezra is the epitome of the phrase, search your feelings, because he is most attuned to this side of the Force. And I can't remember, Colleen, and I apologize if we get to this later. You see this again when Ezra has the holocron, the Sith holocron, and Kanan does not sense it, even though it's right bloody there. So I mean, what do you think of these concepts, Anders?
So I really like this idea. I love that. I don't think until I actually read this that I really noted that he does sense Vader before either of the other two.
Yeah.
And I love that the idea that he is just that in tune to that side of the Force. But as I want to do, I do want to kind of speculate a little bit, see what other kind of theories we can come up here with this.
Yeah.
Could it be that he senses that first because Kanan and Ahsoka have both spent, 15 years or so in hiding, kind of shielding themselves off from the Force or from being sensed by others or whatnot. So those guards are kind of still up. Whereas Ezra is so new at all of this, he's just kind of free flowing. Yeah. Could that just kind of raw power be what's causing that?
And I think that's a really good point because, Kanan and Ahsoka haven't been tapping into the Force as much as they probably should be, even though the Imperials know that they're around now, so they are freer to go and move into the Force a little bit more.
Yeah.
They're also not attuned with the dark side, like Sara said, so they might not be picking up on the dark side energy because they haven't used it. Ezra has used it fairly recently, so he's probably a little more open just to the dark side presence being there.
Yeah, I mean, Ahsoka,
or Ahsoka,
right. Like Ahsoka teaches Ezra, you have to get to know your enemy, but Ezra is already open to understanding how his emotions can be used for power, which makes sense. He's the freaking empath. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't make sense if the empath, even if he is a Jedi without the capital J title, would be using emotions. Lightsabers account for that kind of thing even within the Jedi Order. And I really like the point that kind of like Colleen had raised how he was unconsciously using the Force, but now he knows it's possible. Like sometimes when you like think something is true, you can only go so far, but once someone else confirms that for you, you can then take it so much farther. And so as soon as he has people in his community that help him take down those walls don't need to be there anymore, and he's using muscles. Like I can't remember, Colleen or Anders, do you remember if Yoda, or frankly anyone, but I think Yoda would be the one more than anyone, has talked about the idea of sensing people, or maybe Luke talked about this in the most recent movie, right? About using the Force almost as a muscle to be able to sense other people. You can't just atrophy that skill. So to your point,
I think that's Luke during Last Jedi.
Because he's cut himself
when he's teaching
off.
Rey. Yeah.
Yeah. So
but he still can pull from the skill set. It might be a little more difficult for him, but he comes back into full power pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think the canon kind of answers that for us in a way, although I get a little bit salty with Luke because he's there trying to burn some books and stuff. So I love
Luke. Crazy old man Luke is one of my favorite things. I love it.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
So Colleen, I think now that we're starting to talk more deeply about this quote unquote dark side, are we starting to get at that transition point, do you think?
Yes, I think we're heading into our next stage pretty quickly. He remains in the Lothrat stage until his first sighting of the white Lothcat, which we'll be getting to really soon, and when he meets former governor of Lothal, Ryder Azadi, who will be another semi-important character coming up for Ezra. Only when he meets these two characters can he transition into the next step. He has a couple really cool things that he does before he gets here. He uses his newfound gifts for connection and persuasion. He's also learning how to persuade people. He enlists former clone trooper Rex, our boy Rex. We missed you so much. He enlists Rex to the rebellion very successfully because Rex was pretty darn adamant about not doing it, and then all of a sudden he freaking shows up and you're like, oh, I guess Ezra convinced him. That's pretty good. He also, this is one of my favorites, he meets and impresses former pirate lord Hondo Ohnaka.
Hondo might be my favorite character in
he's so good.
The animated Star Wars stuff.
I love it. I love him so much.
But Hondo's my boy.
Hell yes, he's fantastic. I mean, I'm a card-carrying member of the Hondo Ohnaka fan club. I love him so much. He's just that kind of chaotic, neutral / chaotic good person that you want kind of floating around in a series like this, just because he can stir up some trouble. I mean, but come on, Ezra. When he meets Hondo, this is like he's starting to get over into that kind of really hugely overly trusting characteristic. Like, feel like this is it will turn out fine in the end, but you're kind of sitting there staring at the screen being like, damn it, Ezra. why are we trusting Hondo, this person that you just met who's telling you that he's basically a criminal? But that's fine. That's cool.
Hey, Ezra's not one to judge.
No, he doesn't. That's just the cool part about him, is that he doesn't judge people, which also makes them trust him in return, which will be helpful. In the end, it's just right now you just sit here and like, what is happening? Yeah. Another really cool moment. I love this part too with the kids. They find some Force-sensitive kids. Flo, this is the Inquisitors, are hunting down Force-sensitive children. And they're basically hunting babies.
Do all these children have brooms or no?
No.
No brooms, but they are different species. I think there is a Rhodian, a human, and an Ithorian who they are tracking at this point, and they're all like babies. They're either babies or they're very young toddlers. And it's like, first of all, like, how are they finding these kids? But they have an intricate system of how to find people, and they go by like the rumor mill kind of to go and search for these kids.
They found all the Baratheon bastards, so.
Yes, exactly. Like, it is possible to find them. So they're hunting them. Ezra actually helps defend some of these kids, and he has to try and use his empathetic muscles and flex a little bit and try and connect with babies who he's like, I don't know what to do with babies though, Kanan. I don't know.
Nobody's
like just sitting here. He's like, you have the talent to connect, use it. That's just like, what? But they're children. I don't know what to do. But he eventually does like embrace this talent. At the end, he's like the last one standing against the Inquisitors. He's like holding the baby with his lightsaber. Like he's not gonna back down. He's got like the big Gryffindor energy at this point.
Yeah.
And once he kind of embraces this aspect too, just like not protecting himself and his crew, but also these kind of extended characters, he's ready to move on to that next stage.
And
So
I
it's like-
love how you chart that journey throughout this whole thing, Colleen. Like especially
Notes.
where these transitions are happening.
Right.
And I really like I think for me, one of the biggest illustrations of this transition comes in the episode Call to Action, where they invade the communications tower and they have a chance to kind of get this broadcast out to as many people as possible. And it's Ezra who delivers the message. He puts out a call about how we all need to stand up together, united. He's embracing that community. And he's also taking control and choosing that path. So really kind of getting rid of that Lothrat label that was really put on him by those around him and choosing to move forward. And it's also this nice callback to his family who, as you said, got arrested for broadcasting against the Empire. And so now he's kind of taking up that mantle.
Yeah. And I love how you both had kind of flagged that the Lothrat label was hoisted onto him, and it's now finally his time to step up and away from that. The only additional thing I have to add before we get into the kitty cat section is that I want to give a shout to House Hufflepuff and say our little animal-loving, environmental-friendly, yada, yada, yada. He's got brave Hufflepuff energy, in my humble opinion. Like, Gryffindors may want Ezra, but I'm going House Hufflepuff for him.
I can see him as Puff. Definitely.
Yeah. He was just abandoned. What's a Puff supposed to do without the community to cook for? You know what I mean? Like, now that he has his community, he's going to make sure that everybody is protected, as opposed to, I think one of the key distinctions between him and Anakin is Anakin wanted to protect his specific loved ones, which I don't fault him for, but it can lead to problems. Ezra wants to protect everyone, which maybe is more noble depending on a certain point of view. It really depends, because that too can lead to trouble. So speaking of trouble, I think it is now time for us to move to our next step, Lothcat. We went way over time, so it is a cliffhanger. Bum, bum, bum. Stay tuned next week for our exploration of Ezra's next stage in his character development, Lothcat. So in the meantime, keep sending us your Ezra questions, because we're going to continue engaging in detailed dorky dives of this wonderful, wonderful character. And in the meantime, guess what you can do, boys and girls? You can find us on iTunes, TuneIn, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And frankly, head over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button, because it honestly does really flipping help us young up-and-comers. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us today, telling your friends about us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. If you have any questions or theories about anything we've discussed today, or you're looking forward to us discussing in tomorrow's Tomorrow, you can hit us up on Instagram at Geek Studies, Bohemian Geek Studies, tweet us at us on Geek Studies, or email us at bohemiangeekstudies@gmail.com. So thanks so much for joining us today, and like the Force, always, lightsabers up, and keep those episodes streaming. Bye, Nerdy Nights!
Bye.